speaker is Ruth Dethe, Mrs. Ruth Dethe. Thank you so much for being here. I connected with Ruth about 3 years back, maybe 2 years back, I'm not very sure. She at that time was the principal in the school, at the residential school in Lonavala, which is the Don Bosco school. And my experience was with her was like, you've heard of, how do I go back? When I was young, I used to hear about the stories of this nurse. I think she was called Nightingale. When the soldiers fell apart, she would sit there and she would nurse them. She would be with them. When I met Ruth Dethe, Mrs. Ruth Dethe, she felt like she was so connected with her children in that residential school. She, from her heart, wanted to make a difference. And I was looking at the rector who was there, and I was looking at Ruth Dethe, and I actually accidentally fell onto that school. And life says that there are no accidents. So I was supposed to be there, and we were supposed to be in connect with each other. During my year-long journey with them, I stayed in Lonavala school for many times. And each time, the warmth with which I was received, I felt I was coming home. And they just didn't take care of me. They took care of Ramzan. And Ramzan stayed in that school in another place. And the kind of love and affection that he got from them, at the end of it, he said, मैं मुसलमान जरूर हूँ, पर मैं मेरे बच्चों को यहाँ पढ़ाना चाहूँगा. I wish my son and daughter would get an education like this. They had lit a light in his heart. Mrs. Ruth Dethe and her 46 years of experience, not only was it touching the children over there, but she was like the mother hen for all the staff members. She would be everywhere, taking care of this one, that one, and that one. And I loved her presence. Her presence made me believe in education. Her presence made me believe that even today, everything is possible. So over to Mrs. Dethe. Thank you for taking my invite, for accepting my invite, for being here. And this will be more like a question answer session today. So thank you so much. I'm really in gratitude.
Yeah, thank you. At the outset, I would like to thank my living God, Jesus, for this platform. And thank you, Anu, for this platform which you've given me to share my journey of 46 years.
Wow.
Here.
So, Mrs. Dethe, how did you begin your journey? I believe you were very young, 46 years, you don't look that old. So how old are you?
I am old, I'm 61. Okay, I started off in 1977 when I was just studying, and this I was just looking out for something to do, and they said there is this job of a teacher, and you just have to be with the children and just enjoy yourself. And I said, oh yeah, well, why not give it a try? So that's how I landed in my first school, which was Dr. Erin Nagarwala's pre-primary school.
How old were you?
Yeah. I was 16, going on 17.
Wow, that reminds me of that song. I am 16 going
on 17, yes.
and so who were you teaching at that young age, and what was your experience?
I was teaching the pre-primary, that is 3 years and plus. So the first step when they take into school to learn something.
So as a 16-year-old, how was your experience with 3-year-olds?
It was beautiful. I was there for around 3.5 years, and there was just freedom to enjoy and laugh and sing and dance and play and draw and paint and so many things. It was just nice. It was just fun.
Wow, you were narrating to me today afternoon that
Pardon?
when you were narrating to me today afternoon when we were talking to each other, that your first class, when you entered in, you actually couldn't teach for the first 1 month at all. Could you tell my audience what was really happening then?
Okay, the first day when I entered, I was also in a state of shock and I didn't know what to do because more than 50% of the children were crying. And you won't believe it. The moment they started crying, I also started imitating them. I also started crying in various tones that they were also crying. And some of them looked at me in real shock and disbelief, like, oh, she's crying like us. So for the first month, no learning. It was just crying and just consoling them and cuddling them and hugging them and just being there for them. You know?
Did this lay a foundation for you for something very important?
Yes, they taught me love. So I learned how to love. I think that was my first stage where I just had to love them unconditionally
Wow.
without thinking about anything. Just be there for them and listen to them and just be with them. You know? Absolutely no learning.
Wow.
I think the
So,
learning began much later in the second month or so.
so that's such an important thing to say as a teacher, as someone who has 46 years of experience. Can we say that the 3-year-olds taught you how to love?
Yes, they taught me how
You
to.
had gone there to educate 3 years old, but 3-year-olds were actually teaching you how to love and connect
Yes,
and telling you
yes.
that education is not important. These connections are more important.
Connections are more important. I
I,
think once you connect, education becomes easier. But that connection is important.
wow,
You need somebody to love them.
wow, that's so interesting. So from here, where did you further, how did you carry this into the further journey? This lesson that you learned from 3 years old, 3-year-olds, how did you carry this further into your journey?
Well, then I got promoted. I went to a little higher classes. So there, it was still very interesting. They didn't appoint you just like that. So the principal said, you will have to meet the students. You must come and give a lesson. And only then we will think of taking you. I said, okay, fine, not a problem. So I went in, smiled. I did my, I was very cool and very easily, I just could relate to them and taught a lesson, came out. And then it was very nice because the principal said, I will definitely appoint you because the students love you. So I said, oh wow, that was also kind of, I mean, I was happy when I heard that. So I think the next phase, when I'm looking at my journey, I divided into phases. Like first, I learned love. Now I was learning compassion, to be compassionate. Because in this school, I had to deal with children coming from different strata of society, and a lot of them were not well to do. They kind of belong to the lower income group. So there I learned to be very compassionate and kind. So that was the phase where I would take time to talk to them about what's happening at home, how are they managing, are they eating and coming, because a child cannot sit in class on a hungry stomach. So these were little things which uh, I had to do that kind of out of the way without looking into the book or looking at educating them. So this was another thing that I learned in that second phase of
Wow.
my
How
career.
old were these kids?
These must have been around, let's say, 10. 8 to 12, 8 to 13.
Is it different when you're managing a 3-year-olds and 8 to 12-year-olds?
Yes, definitely. Because the 3-year-olds will listen to your word is like, everything for them, very obedient. But 10-year-olds would take some time. They would,
How did you deal with that? Because 3-year-olds kind of listen.
uh, my approach to them was very friendly. So I didn't have much trouble in relating with them. And reasoning out is also there, you know, as to why you're doing this, and just be a little more interactive with them. And I think they do understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Then what happened? I mean, you obviously kept going, and it's 46 years. So can you carry us
Um,
through a little bit of your journey?
then in the third phase, when I moved, I developed a lot of patience and tolerance, because by then I moved to Don Bosco Lunavla. So there I began with the middle school and went right up to the junior college. So a lot of patience and tolerance with the fifth to the eighth, ninth. And when I looked at the junior college, I had to learn, or rather, I imbibed a lot of two-way communication skills, a dialogue with them. That was something which I felt was the need with that age group, because they were all teenagers, and teenagers are all going through teenage. So way communication is required to deal with them all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me, did you become a better parent because of all this? Because my mom often says this. Bete, at home, when you have one child, and in school, you have 40 children. And it's easier to manage those 40 children, but sometimes it's difficult to manage your own child. Had you brought in all this love, compassion, and tolerance and patience back home, or is it that when you reached home, that was all lost?
No, I tried to be the same. Of course, my daughter may not agree with it, but I kept saying that I need to be the same. I can't be different at home and I can't be different in school. So, having one child and also the children in the school, uh, well, it does make you a better person. Being a parent and being a teacher, I think it helps you both, kind of, because both are coexisting. So I always feel that the growth of both are always interdependent. You become a better parent, you become a better teacher. When you're becoming a better teacher, you become a better parent, because there also you're dealing with parents who are just like you. So I don't think it becomes very wasn't difficult for me.
It probably helped you to understand the parent side of it, and also helped you to understand the children better, because you were dealing on both the sides. You were jumping both the sides regularly.
Correct. Both.
Absolutely. Do you
Yes.
Would you have any instance where you remember maybe a child or maybe a teacher that left a very big impact in your life? Something that happened to them that left a very big impact in your life. Something that you can tell my audience.
There have been many interesting experiences, but this one I just kind of remember because, as I told you, I was dealing with the teenagers. And when they come to the 11th and 12th in the junior college, the first thing in their mind is to fall in love and get married. So, so I would keep an open kind of a time for them to talk to me after classes are over. So and there were many, but this is something which I remember, and it was really very funny. So this boy comes to me and says, "Miss, I want to talk to you." I said, "Sure." So I said, "2 p.m. Let's freeze it," and he comes and he says, "I'm in love." And I said, "Wow, wonderful." No? And I want to get married. I said, "Wow." So here also I'm still saying wow and very happy with the whole thing. I can't pretend to be shocked or whatever,
Yeah,
like Be very, just go with the flow, what he's saying. I said, very nice. Then I said, who's the girl? So he says, you know the girl. I said, wow, wonderful. So then I said, how do you know that, you love this girl? And have you spoken to her? And have you expressed your love for her? So he looks at me and he says, well, no. I said, oh. Then how do you know that she's in love with you? The way she looks at me, I'm sure she's in love with me. So I said, okay. And then after I listen to this, then I have to give my bit of advice. No? So I told him nicely, see, for you to manage a home, to manage a family, you need money. And then I said, do you know how much you will need? He says, those years, I'm talking of a few years ago. So he says, 5,000. And I said, no, my dear fellow, it's not 5,000. So I was teaching economics also those days. So what I did was, I made him write down everything. What is your expenditure? No, write it down. Then he said, oh, I never thought of this. I said, okay, so now what you do, 11th and 12th you finish, and then we'll see about getting married. Okay, then we'll go and talk to the parents maybe. So now I said, your priority is just to study, so just concentrate on studying. He says, okay, fine then. So we will look into this later. So I said, yes. So what I realized was I had to build, or rather it was both ways, building that trust and that friendship, trying to tell them that I'm here for you. So now also I tell them the same thing. I'm there for you. This is my phone number. Any time of the day, night, you need me, I'm available. So this age group I find is a very delicate age group. And you need to be very, very patient, tolerant, and communicative, a good counselor, be very open to listening to what they are trying to tell you and what they are not trying to tell you, but they are trying to communicate.
Wow.
To try and read in between the lines.
So, what, in your opinion, are the biggest difficulties that children have or had during, when they are 3-year-olds? What are the difficulties they would have? Or somebody who's 10 to 12-year-old, what's a major difficulty that they are having? Maybe with parents or maybe with teachers. And from when they are a teenage, what are the difficulties they are having?
From experience, Anu, what I would like to share is uh, difficulties have been, see, there are going to be difficulties.
Yes.
But what happens as a parent, I think, is, and I have always told the parents this, especially teenagers, when the parents come and they'll say, "Arey, hum to kantal gaye," or I'm fed up, and you do whatever you want. And so I used to wonder why, and then I would tell them that why don't you go back to your age? So I think what happens is, as we are evolving also, we remember we are a parent, but we forget our childhood. To being parents of teenage children, but we forget that we have been teenagers and we have been the same. So that's why, see, generally you find, like as your mother told you, भाई 40 बच्चों को संभालना आसान है, एक बच्चे को संभालना मुश्किल है, no? So mothers also keep saying, "Arey, you don't know what you were, no? But your child is much better." So I think somewhere we forget that we have also been like that. So we forget to relate to that age group. While I feel it is easy to relate, but I think what happens with parents is there are so many pressures also which they are going through in their everyday lives. So much of competition that there is. So as a result, what happens is they become poor listeners to their children. Of their problems they would not have if they just sit very calmly and just listen. What the children need today, just but we become good judges. We don't listen.
Oh, what a beautiful point.
So
We
that
become good judges, not good listeners.
not good listeners. So at the back of my mind, I'm saying, Arey, she is telling me this. That means definitely there's a boyfriend. No? Or if my son is saying is, oh, he is going on, on an outline now. I need to just get everything, put a leash around him. So I'm not listening, but I'm already making my own perception about the whole problem. No?
Absolutely. What a beautiful point to put across, that we as parents and teachers and elders who don't anymore relate to that age are already going into our own stories. And if only we sat down and listened, if
Hmm.
only we actually heard what the other person was saying, everything would change. So, Ruth, how do you listen to people?
What I try to do is uh, listening also requires a lot of interest.
Hmm.
So I should not be looking around at 10 people, be looking down and reading something. I need to have eye contact with the person. That is very important. So that eye contact, what it tries to do is uh, makes the other person feel that you are interested and you are totally involved with that person. The moment you get distracted looking around, you're giving a message that, oh no, this person is not interested in me. So to listen, you need to physically also be very attentive to what that person is. So suddenly, if they ask you, are you, suddenly a question, and then you kind of, when you're not attentive and you're doing something, it doesn't give the correct message to the person that you are listening. So parents also at home are listening today, but their attention is on maybe the mobile or the television, or they're doing housework. No? So to actually make a time to sit and get them to listen is, I think, very important.
And I
The,
think it's also their emotions are also connected. If they are listening or they're complaining about a teacher, it's so much more easier. But if they are complaining to them about themselves, if the children are telling mom, I have a problem with you, that might not be taken in the correct way of listening. That may then go more into a defense or a judgment, which can then mar and tarnish the relationship in a very, very difficult place it can reach. So I think listening from a space of how do you say, listening from a genuine place can actually mean unconditional love in
hmm.
many, many ways. Yeah, that's a brilliant point that you put across. So, Ruth, carry me through the journey. Right now, you are not working with school anymore, you just retired. So, how are you coping up with so many children who were there 46 years of doing the same thing? And suddenly, does that, what does that do to you? I mean, are you still connected, not connected? What is it doing?
I am still connected. So I am learning how to operate Facebook, also Twitter, and my daughter is trying to teach me all these things and making me tech savvy. And I feel this also is a very good means because it helps me to connect to so many people. And I'm connecting to a lot of students now these days. So there are so many things happening in their lives, and it's so wonderful to see them growing, sharing, and especially their views. So today also I have a few on this show of yours also who are,
Brilliant, brilliant.
yes, who are connecting and watching, and so it's wonderful. And I have kept connections, I think, over a number of years, because there are still a few students right from my first batch in 87 whom I still connect to. So right now I'm very busy learning technology, connecting with students, getting to know them, getting to know what's happening in their lives. And they also feel free to share whatever they feel like.
Wow. Do you remember any such child who you can go back to and who touched your heart and you really felt, oh my God, like, your contribution there or that child contributed to you in whichever way, like it really stayed in your heart?
There have been many delicate issues, uh, and like a student is depressed and wanting to give up their life, and there have been many whom I reached out to, and not just one. Um, and they have come back and appreciated, like, they said, "Yes, you were there, and that helped me or that saved my life." And um, I was happy, but at the same time, I felt that is, I think, my duty, my call, that to
It
reach
was
out.
your calling, yeah.
Yeah, that's my calling, to reach out.
So I believe your daughter is a very successful person. If you can tell my audience what does she do, I will just tell you why I'm connecting this question. I haven't asked you this before, but I just feel it's really important for people to know that you just didn't make the students, but you made something brilliant. So let me put it like this. We don't make children, children make themselves. But you were
Correct.
definitely there supporting her all the way. So what does she do?
Well, my daughter is Miss Mona Dethe. She is a professional anchor. So she has anchored a lot of important events and shows. She's done the Pro Kabaddi League. Then what is this? The international cricket matches, and a lot of national and international events. And she travels widely. She's a very good writer, a very good orator, and she builds a lot of confidence in me also, to make me tech savvy.
Thank you. I wanted this to be. You remember when Miss Tete said that she connected with 3-year-olds? The first 1 month, 3-year-olds only cried. She learned to connect with them. What she forgot to tell us today, that was a stepping stone for her to actually become a teacher. She decided her career to become a teacher after she met those 3.5-year-olds. What struck me when I was talking to her today afternoon, that not only laid the foundation for Miss Tete, but also for Mona. Because in that first 1 month, she was only learning how to anchor and how to connect with these little kids. And she said very loudly, kids were crying, I was crying. That means she was doing what kids were doing. And she was able to connect to them. And without connection, there cannot be education. So Mona gets that gift from you, that you learned how to connect and listen, and she does the same for her profession. And how profound is that, that when the mother does something, your profession just walks into her, but in a different flavor, with a different timeline, with a different way. She just could connect to the bigger audience because you had completed connecting to an audience which were 3 to 16 years of age. So that is really brilliant. Any message that you have for your students? Any message that you have for the parents and the teachers? So 3 different messages, please.
My message to the students would be, keep adapting to the changes. That will keep you happy. For parents, please, please have a lot of patience with your children. And for my students, run, jump, and play. And keep yourself away from trouble.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And during coronavirus and this pandemic, how do you think they should be dealing and keeping themselves safe and happy when there is so much of social distancing going on? What should they do? Especially those children who used to come and stay at your residential school. I don't know whether that's still running. What are you doing over there? But how do they cope up?
I think, a lot of things are happening around, and so much is available. But I think if we develop the spiritual strength of children at this time,
Mm.
where they learn to maybe pray, meditate, this is of primary importance, because I remember at every meeting, at every gathering, I've told this: spend 5 minutes in meditation and prayer. You know, as a group, maybe as parents with children connect to your maybe your neighbors. Now with distancing at home also, and it's a very wonderful thing when you learn to just even be very quiet. Then maybe later on, whatever prayers they have, whatever, I think that will build a lot of strength uh, in the little ones. And we think that, little ones don't understand what is prayer and what is, but I think they do. And I think if we develop them spiritually, and spiritually if they're strong, I think they can cope with any kind of a situation, maybe a pandemic or whatever comes in their lives.
Wow, I'm so honored today to talk to you. And when you were talking, this is what came to my mind. I'd read ages back when I was standing in a school where I wanted to admit my kids because we were in a transferable job. I was standing in Calcutta and there were these lines that fell across my eyes, and they were about a teacher. They were about a teacher, a child who had lost his mother, and how he takes to the teacher so much and goes and gives her a gift. And the gift that he gives her is a perfume bottle, which is half used. And that perfume bottle is the bottle of the mother who died. It's
Mm.
because this teacher saw in him something and gave him all the attention and did the listening and had the patience and did the connection with him. And then when he later became somebody big, he actually called her to, and when he was getting married, he actually calls her. And when she comes over there, she wears that perfume to represent his mother. So teachers have a place in my life and in the life of the students. You become a lifeline for many, many people. And I'm in such deep gratitude for you to be here. Just the last question: has somebody been your lifeline in 46 years?
Well, my parents initially have impacted me a lot, and my teachers in school.
Oh, wow. Can you
There
talk
are,
about any specific teacher who impacted
yes,
you?
I still remember I had lost my father. I lost him when I was, I think, in the eighth standard, and we were having our exams after that. And I still remember this teacher and her name also. Her name was Mrs. Lemos, and she didn't do anything. She didn't say anything. She just came and stood next to me and just put her hand on my head. That's all. And very comforting that was. You know, she didn't have to say anything, and very nice. It was just good to relate with them, and very heart touching it was.
Wow. Wow. That really touches my heart. Sometimes all you need is a touch, a
Yeah.
reassuring touch, a reassuring hold, someone looking into your eyes and someone just talking to you. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much. I'm now going to open the forum for all three of you. Is there anything else that you want to say?
Um no, just thank you for having me, and I'm
So I'm
still.
going to put a few photographs of Miss Dethe in the group. I'm also going to add you to the group. If anybody else wants to be part of the WhatsApp group, please connect to me on my number 99 308 98116. And Miss Dethe had sent me some very beautiful photographs. I apologize, I did not get the time because I've been jumping today evening for another show that I was in, and that's why I got 10 minutes late over here because it was all getting overlapped. But I will be putting up these photographs and I will make a video out of it and put it across for all of you, which is my promise to Miss Dethe. So I'm going to right now um, end this part with the question answer session. But before that, I would really like Miss Dethe to say her last words before I go for the question answers. Yes.
My last words would be stay strong during this entire pandemic. And I just want to end with just 4 lines of a poem by Robert Frost. There are promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So I still want to do a lot. Thank you.
You know what? Those were the lines my father would read out to me.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank
Means a
you.
lot. I just felt that he spoke through you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.